Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, April 13th. The time is now 3:02 p.m. And I am calling this meeting of the Academic Senate to order. So before we get started today on our agenda items, and before I kick us off by reviewing our community values, our Senate community values, I did want to offer a moment of silence at the beginning. And that is for our colleague that passed away from nursing, David Martinez. And before we engage in this moment of silence, I also want to offer that there is moments of silence are moments of silence for many reasons. I think one obvious reason is that they're a moment for those that are religious or believe in a God, to have a moment to use that time to speak with that deity in some way that is meaningful to them, or embrace, the universe in some other way. For some, I think moments of silences are an opportunity for you to reflect on the person that passed, or perhaps reflect on your own losses if you don't have an intimate relationship with the person that passed. But they're also a moment to just have a moment to yourself and process what happens in your own way. And I have been in dialogue with the nursing department, and I think that there's a couple ways where we will, as a faculty body, honor the loss of David. And I look forward to helping navigate those processes to do that. But also, when we were in conversation, and I mentioned at the Senate meeting, I would be offering a moment of silence, Sarah Orr shared with me that that David would actually have a really hard time with a moment of silence, and that he would be kicking her under the table and trying to make her giggle during the moment of silence. So as we all embrace the next few quiet moments together, I just really want you to take some time and do what you need to do. And if that includes kicking the person next to you and trying to make them giggle, that is definitely one way that we can honor our lost colleague. So please take a moment with me to think about the loss of our colleague. So it's never easy to bring us back after a moment like that, but I'll ask that you do that. And I'll also ask that you think about the tremendous loss that we've all experienced through the loss of David. Over the last year, we've also lost our colleague Janet. There's been many other faculty that are emeritus and that have retired or moved on in different ways that we've lost as well. And then the enormous weight of just the pandemic and those of us that are grieving over the last few years. So it's always a tough thing to do this, but I think that it's important, even in these shared governance spaces, to take the time and remember that we're all humans first. So thanks for doing that with me. So now we will abruptly go back to our meeting agenda. And at the top of every meeting, I've come to this practice of acknowledging one of our values that we created 2 years ago when I started this job. And I think today, especially with the different topics on our agenda, I want to highlight number one. So remember that we all made a commitment when we made these together 2 years ago, and then reaffirmed our use of them last fall. Number one, say it in the meeting. We want to create an atmosphere for open, honest exchange. If something is bothering you and you are open to share it, please share it with the group. Speak to your discomfort. Often our emotional reactions to authentic exchanges can offer valuable learning opportunities. As members of the Academic Senate, we need to be willing to be uncomfortable in the work at the table. And please take note that nowhere in there is there anything about being polite, but rather authentic exchanges and open, honest communication. That is what we created together as our values. So moving on to our Zoom meeting guidelines, I know many of you here have been working with these. So any newcomers, I'll just say, if you want to speak during the meeting, if you're a guest, the only time that you can do so is when public comment is asked, and I'll ask for public comment at the beginning of the meeting in a few minutes, and then before each of our different agenda items as well. So if you want to speak during public comment, you are to raise your virtual hand to do so, and I will call on you, and then you can unmute yourself. If you are a senator and are going to contribute to the meeting during a discussion item, please also raise your virtual hand, and I will call on you in the order that your hands have been raised. So approval of the agenda and items to be taken out of order. We do have one timed item, which is a presentation from Gensler today. So other than that, we will take our Academic Senate agenda as posted and distributed. Okay, which brings me to item 3.1, and I do have a request for several public comments I know of ahead of time. If anybody else other than the people I'll call upon want to give public comment at this time, just please raise your virtual hand. So Pam Gunther wants to give public comment at this time, and I know Cindy Rogers does as well. So Pam, we'll start with you. So go ahead, Pam.
Hi, I would have saved this comment to just before this item, but I actually have to meet with a bunch of students. I have a few waiting out here. So I'm going to give my comment now and hope that my senators can carry this forward when the consultants are here to present on the survey. So yesterday I started to complete this survey, and I have a lot of concerns about this survey. And the first sort of overarching concern is it seems as though no one consulted with constituent groups before they wrote this particular survey. There are a lot of questions that, first of all, that don't even make sense. For instance, in a question that's asking about what are your preferences for working remotely, one of the items there is food services. So as one of my colleagues said, sure, I want a virtual hot dog. Why is that even an option in the survey? So there's a lot of questions that don't really make sense. And then I found that in almost all of the questions, any choice about pedagogy was left off. So there are questions about why are you choosing to teach this way? So there wasn't a choice anywhere, and there wasn't even an option to write other to say because this is the best pedagogy for my discipline. And there were many instances where that was not an option in the survey, which, by the way, I found a little bit offensive that you think the only reason I would choose whatever schedule I'm choosing is simply because I have access to the food court and not because it might be the best way for my students to learn my content. On top of that, like for instance, I'm going to give a couple of for instances and then I'll leave it to you to take care of, I guess. The question that asked about why you might have chosen your schedule in the way that you did also did not offer an option for because it was assigned to me. Most adjuncts do not get to choose their schedules. They are assigned a schedule and they teach it. And that wasn't listed as an option either. And again, there wasn't an other option in there. So there were a lot of things where it seemed as though this survey was written by people who either maybe don't teach or aren't at our college, which is fine, but perhaps before you send it out to the campus, you should consult with at least the leaders in each of those constituent groups before you put the survey out. When they ask questions about, are you teaching, how many of your courses are in person or remote, there isn't an option for hybrid, and almost all of mine are hybrid right now. So I had no idea how to answer that question. The question that asks about types of classes that are most effective for students doesn't even have an option for fully in person. Every option has some remote piece to it. So it seems as though there should be an option for fully in person. The question about effective learning activities for students should have at least included an other option, because it's not really feasible that they've listed all the possible learning activities that teachers provide in their classes. There's a lot of questions that don't allow for hybrid or pedagogy as options. And one of the questions asks if you want a desk to yourself or a shared desk, but the way the question is asked is two options. Would you like a desk to yourself and be required to be on campus more, or something like that, and then, or would you be willing to share a desk and have more remote opportunities? Why are those the only two choices? There should be at least two other choices, if not at least an other on there. So I just really have concerns. The survey's already gone out. I think it's important that everybody is aware that there are a lot of things left out. And as I understand, even my ESD colleagues feel left out of this survey. So whatever results we may get from this survey, we need to make sure that we are looking at it through that lens. I don't know if there's an opportunity to fix the survey and resend it, but take as you will my comments about this particular survey. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pam. And there seems to be this constant misunderstanding with the Brown Act and Brown Act bodies that the body can't respond to public comments, which is false and has been proven to be false multiple times. So we can't discuss it because it's not an agenda item, but we can certainly respond to your comment. And so I'll do that at this time. You and I have exchanged emails, and so I have those emails, so I have some of this documented. You are correct, ESD faculty reached out to me. Well, I don't even know if they reached out to me technically, but I was CC'd on that, and I've been in contact with Ellen and others from ESD that had their own concerns about this survey. And so I just want to say to this body, in response to this public comment, I, as Academic Senate President, at no time was asked about this survey. It's possible that somebody mentioned the survey was going out soon and I missed it in like Dr. Murillo's report at CPC or somewhere like that. But I actually, when it came in my inbox, I was a little surprised. I was like, oh, I didn't know I was getting this. It's possible other people in faculty leadership knew it was coming. Of late, Kindred has been looping other people in faculty leadership in about things and not me. And I guess because I'm the outgoing Academic Senate President, I don't really know who else knew about this. So it's possible others knew, but I did not know about this. And so you're right, now that it's out, I don't know how we're going to deal with it. And I don't know what they're going to do with this information in the ways that they asked it, because it left a lot to be desired. So we have the people from the company here doing a presentation at 3:30, and I'm certainly going to ask them, where do I send this feedback? And what opportunity did SBCC have to give you feedback? And I have to believe at one point there was feedback given, because for instance, our meta majors were included in one of the first questions, which part applies to you, which division. So clearly they had our meta majors. I don't know what they're called now. They used to be called meta majors. So clearly they had something from SBCC, but I have no idea where, why, or when. So we'll try and figure this out, but yep. Thanks, Pam. So Cindy.
Hi, thanks. I think there's been some confusion. Listening to the CAC meeting the other day, I wasn't listening. I got pinged. You need to get in there and clear this up, okay? And then I ran into Kathy O'Connor. We're going to blame Kathy O'Connor for me being here today. She said, Academic Senate and CAC needs to know this. The bookstore never, ever, ever sends a student to collections. It does not affect, if they don't, we will put a student hold on it, a hold on a student account, okay? But it just sits there forever. They don't go to a collections. It doesn't affect their credit rating. It won't impact their ability to buy a car, because nobody but the bookstore knows, okay? There is a division on campus that sends students to collections, but it is never, ever the bookstore. It was offered to us and we said no, from basically for the reasons all the faculty have voiced, okay? I just want to make that clear. If a student comes to you and says the bookstore has sent the collections after me, it wasn't the bookstore. They may also have a bookstore hold, but the collection agency is not coming from the bookstore. Thank you. And that's it. Just wanted to make that very clear.
Thanks, Cindy. And I just have to apologize for the telephone game that is shared governance. Speaking from my own vantage point as somebody that has been trying to have these conversations at the Senate level, let me be very clear. I am very much interested in holding faculty accountable that are doing, and what I, in my opinion, are very shady things around class supplies. And it's all about the faculty doing this and not necessarily, no, let me say that differently, and not the bookstore. So I really appreciate you taking the time and coming here to faculty and sharing this at Senate. I know that that's never an easy thing to do. And my interest has always been the conflict of interest of faculty assigning course materials that they are then profiting from themselves. And so that is where the focus of my intention of resolutions and work has always been. But thank you for clearing this up. Anna, really quick.
And then I just need to clarify then, because when things are class materials fees, those are not bookstore fees, and those do send students to collections. So I just want to make sure that that doesn't get lost in the sauce. That's what I was concerned.
That's right.
That is correct. The bookstore doesn't handle it. Student finance handles it. And that is not us, okay?
Which brings us back to that conversation of when we approve class materials through CAC, we are setting students up for this to have happened to them.
Right, but I wanted to make
not the
very
bookstore.
sure it's not that you recognize that the bookstore does not send the students to collection or affect their credit rating for the very reasons that Counselor Jen and Kathy O'Connor and Tara Carter have brought up.
Awesome. Thanks, Cindy. Really appreciate it. Okay, so going back to our Senate agenda. Oh, wait, hold on. Those were the two public comments I knew about at this time. Is there anyone else at this moment of the meeting that would like to provide public comment? And I'm seeing no virtual hands raised. Okay, so now going back to the agenda. Okay, so the minutes of regular meetings on March 9th and 16th have been posted and distributed for your review. Unless I hear otherwise, we will accept these meeting minutes for our two meetings in March as posted and distributed. So speak now and offer revisions or forever hold your peace. Okay, I'm hearing and seeing none, so we will accept the meeting minutes as posted. Which brings me to item 5.1, my president's report. Okay, so a couple of things is in the works. PEC, Program Evaluation Committee, is really feeling the pressure these days of wrapping up our work from this year of our program review overhaul and planning for next year. We hope to make an informal presentation to CPC either at the very next CPC meeting or the one after that to get feedback from CPC. And then after the feedback is received, The formal report will be written by me and then provided back to CPC. There's a number of changes that we're talking about at the program review level, and specifically the process level. So to loop you in now, how do we loop in BRAC and budgeting resource allocation requests with program review, which is something that you do in program review anyways, and then you link it to your 4-year goals. And then also the faculty human resource requests or staff resource request or equipment resource requests. It will be my recommendation, and don't have a formal recommendation from PEC, but there are recommendations from several different bodies to no longer go, the route of ITC and P&R ranking faculty equipment separate from other things. So that all needs to be fleshed out. So more to come around that soon, but PEC is very quickly coming to an end with our work. I'm working with Vice President Joyce Coleman. She and I have been meeting with the membership reps from AAWCC to create a chapter here at SBCC. So that is the Association of American Women in Community Colleges. So this is something that Joyce knew about from her days up in Oregon. She feels strongly that that should be an affinity group here on campus. I don't disagree. In my social circles, I've joked that we need a mentoring group called Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants for female or femme identifying professors, especially newer hires, untenured, recently tenured faculty, to have a social professional group to find community with. So Joyce Coleman and I are working on that. We're either going to be asking for the funding of that through the foundation or perhaps Kindred, although I think that we'll probably go to the foundation first and see how that lands so that we can bring that to campus. So I think that that's going to be a really exciting thing, and I think that it's going to definitely elevate issues that female and femme identifying individuals have been experiencing for some time. I can't talk right now. Sorry, I'll be out in a minute. Sorry, it's a student. It's in the legislation liaison report, but I want to bring to your attention AB 1705. So that legislation is happening at, of course, the state level. There are recommendations coming from the State Academic Senate, and I think that other people should be keeping their eyes on this particular piece of legislation. And the ASCCC in their resolutions, and Tara will tell us about this next week, had some very specific recommendations around this legislation. But basically the nuts and bolts of it is that it will not, I don't want to get it wrong. Basically, it's how we place students, and then so there's enrollment and then placement. And so they want to make sure that CTE students are exempt, for example. Part of the legislation is to not, is eliminating pre-transfer level classes. And so they want to make sure that those aren't eliminated. And I know from the ASCCC's perspective, they really want to make sure that students have agency over, like, okay, the college placed me here by whatever metric, my high school transcript. But that, I feel as though I might need a pre-transfer level course to start me off. So I just want to bring everyone's attention to that, because I think AB 1705 is going to be on the level of AB 705 was, and there's some really worrisome legislation there. So I just want to bring your attention to that. The last thing I'll share with you, I met today with Guire Schuyler, who has been appointed the Credit for Prior Learning Coordinator. So if you all remember last year, we approved the AP and BP, changes for credit for prior learning because of the Title V changes that came through. And last year I led a couple faculty town halls and work around credit for prior learning. And so thank goodness Kathy Scott came to our college campus, because she was interested in making sure that that was successful here, unlike previous administrators were. So Kathy, secured the funds to have a credit for prior learning coordinator. And so Guyer has been chosen as that person. And so Guyer and I met today. One of the recommendations I gave to Guyer today specifically was to make sure that she requests coming back to Senate and sharing out what her work is doing, and what and where and what departments she's working with, and what changes are happening for credit for prior learning, for two reasons. One, to make the work visible so that we're all aware of what can be offered to students in credit for prior learning, especially our adult returning students and veteran students, but also so that departments and faculty can learn what other departments are doing and then engage in that work with Guyer as well, so that even more opportunities for credit for prior learning can happen. So Guyer's just getting started. She's like on the early end of things. And so I expect really great things from that work. And I think out of a lot of the things I've worked on at the Senate level, I think credit for prior learning is going to be like one of the more exciting ones. So I'm looking forward to what happens around there, even if it's from a long distance away of just being a chemistry professor at SBCC. All right. So that concludes my president's report. Wait, does it? Yeah, it concludes my president's report for now. Item 5.2, Senate liaisons. Senate liaisons, do you have anything that you would like to share with us at this time that was in your written report that you want to highlight? Okay, I'm seeing none. So going back to our agenda. Kathy Scott is at the CIO conference or meeting, I can't remember which, so she's unable to meet with us today. And so she's not here to give a EVP report, nor did she submit a written one. We had no request to agendize items at future meetings, which now brings us to our consent agenda. So remember the way our consent agenda goes, that if anybody feels as though we need to discuss any of the items on our consent agenda, that you let the body know, the item gets removed, placed at the bottom of our agenda for us to actually discuss it before a motion is made. Otherwise, we accept the consent agenda as posted, as distributed, as a whole, no discussion. So the first item on it is a single sabbatical leave report from Sam Masuman in computer science. And so the committee just provides the summary. So the summary is there for you all. So what happens is that the committee for sabbatical leave and faculty recognition has vetted this, approved it, is sending it on to us for our approval. And then once that happens, it's archived. Now, it used to supposed to go to our library for archiving, and then it's also my understanding that that never actually happened. So I'm not sure why that is the case. And yeah, and let me say, hold on, and I'm not throwing the library under the bus. I think it's not the library's fault and like some weird, like, I don't know, like process that never actually happened. But Ellen, did you want to say something?
I will say we do have, I can't say we have all of them, but we do have some faculty leave reports in our archives.
Perfect.
Or sabbatical leaves, sorry.
Good, love it. And then item 6.3 is that agenda item that keeps coming back. So remember the Brown Act and the Bagley-Keene Act were lifted by the governor because of remote considerations. And so at this time, Brown Act bodies have to every 30 days reaffirm that they are meeting virtually. Now, with the return to in-person things, and as the pandemic continues to slowly move towards an endemic stage, especially here in Santa Barbara County, we are going to have to start meeting in person. So I think senators need to start thinking about that, and also the next leadership of Senate will have to think about how to offer both options so that people can tune in remotely, but at least view the meeting, but not necessarily participate, because the Brown Act makes it incredibly hard for people to participate remotely. So those are our 2 items. And so I would like to either hear from somebody that would like to remove an item to discuss it further, or if we can approve the whole Senate agenda in one swoop.
I move to approve the consent items.
Thank you, Ellen. Do we have a second?
Second,
That was Benjamin Reyes, right?
yes.
Cool. All right, so roll call voting. Yeah, you would like, if you're going to affirm the approval of the consent agenda, you may vote yes or yay. If you do not approve, you're gonna vote nay or no. And if you'd like to abstain, which is a non-vote, you can say abstain. Benjamin Reyes,
Yes.
Counselor Jen,
Yay.
Ellen,
Yes.
Jenny,
Yes.
Joy,
Yes.
Dee Dee,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Jess,
Yay.
Robbie,
Whoops, yes.
Ruth,
Yes.
Tara,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Trisha,
Yes.
and Anna.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, our consent agenda passes. Thank you, everyone. The time is now 3:34, and we have that timed item of our presenters from Gensler. So I believe they're here. I see Deborah Shepley. And where did she go? And Pamela Lester. Nice to see you both. I'll give you both co-hosting privileges if you'd like. And thank you so much for being here with us at the Senate. And so with co-hosting privileges, if you would like to share like perhaps a slide deck or something like that, you can easily do so. And feel free to get started.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having us today. We are excited to meet with the Academic Senate and get your views and your thoughts on, excuse me, where the college is heading in its strategic planning process. And so, yes, we do have some slides that we'll share with you today, but also know that we'll be asking for your input as we go along. It's really important as we do this work together that the faculty have a really wonderful driving force in the process. You are the group of individuals who are likely to be with the institution through its entirety. And so it's so very important that we have your input and know what your hopes and dreams are for Santa Barbara City College. So with that, I'll say that my name is Pam Luster. I am currently the proud president of San Diego Mesa College. I will be retiring at the end of June. And so I'll have a little bit more time to spend on this planning process. And I will introduce my partner in this, Deborah Shepley.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deborah Shepley. I'm a principal with Gensler. My background is I'm trained as an architect, but I've been doing planning the majority of my career. And for over 25 years, I've been working within the California community college system, leading planning efforts, all types of planning, from strategic to educational planning, to facilities master planning, to technology planning, anything related to planning. And the theme that I bring and the approach that I bring to every effort is to ensure that planning efforts are integrated. And I'm thrilled to be meeting with you all today and beginning this process and to hear your thoughts and comments as we begin. So I will share my screen and to share with you a little deck that we've put together to help describe the process and what we'll be doing over the next several months. So I'm hoping everyone can see my screen. Yes. Okay, so we put this together for today's meeting. And some of you may have been part of another meeting when you might have seen some of this content, but we'll go through it regardless because we know there's definitely some new faces on the call or people that may not have seen it. But what we'd like to begin with is talking holistically about the approach that we bring, and then the actual process and how the process lines up with the next several months. We'll share with you the timeline. And then the majority of the conversation we'd love from hear from you and understand your goals or your measures of success. We'll share with you what we've heard to date, and then we'd love to hear more from you. And then we'll talk about next steps. So these are the three qualities that we think really highlight the approach that we bring to you for the strategic planning process at Santa Barbara City College. It's one that's integrated, very participatory, and of course, data informed. And that's a combination of both qualitative and quantitative data. So when it comes to integrated planning, it means different things to different people, but this is one of the best definitions that Pam and I like to use, and it's been developed by the Society for College and University Planning, or SCUP. And this definition really highlights that it's about building relationships, aligning an organization or an institution, and most importantly, being prepared for change. Because a successful strategic plan can be agile and help you as an institution address the changes that you cannot anticipate and be ready for that change and be ready to respond. And so the plan that we're talking about and kicking off today is a strategic plan, but we understand in this diagram we've used to describe sort of the context of how we're looking at the strategic plan, which is right here. And I'll hand it back to Pam to kind of just talk through this a little bit with you. You're on mute.
So one of the things that I want to admit up front is I have been in community colleges as a faculty member and administrator for 41 years this year. I know I look remarkably young to make that statement, but nonetheless, I have always been someone who's been suspect of consultants coming into an institution and trying to help the institution do something that intuitively one thinks one could do themselves, right? There should be an opportunity for colleges to hold up a mirror in front of them and say, this is who we are. It shouldn't be complicated to know where we're headed. But I will tell you that my thoughts have changed on that over time, because we do get myopic about our own institutions. It's a natural thing. We are in the forest. It is how we do our work. We know our institutions really well from an operational perspective. What can be more difficult is reflecting about where the institution is in relationship to its community, the students that it serves. And so I am a believer, not just because I'm here working with all of you on the strategic planning process, but because I've seen it really transform institutions when they do this level of work. And so what we're doing is we're really now doing a lit review, if you will. We're looking at all of the current college plans. We're working with your institutional research office and looking at how that strategic plan will stretch across your institution. And now what we're doing as we look at some of those source documents is really now digging in with all of you. What is your why? Where are you headed? What do you want for your students? What kind of institution do you want to work in? I often say to people, student-centeredness is awesome, but if all of us show up to work grumpy because we're not getting what we need, then our students aren't going to get what they need either. So strategic plan really gives us the opportunity to dream a little bit about where we want to go, and then establishes measurements to know when and how we get there.
And as we think of this strategic plan within all the other planning efforts that you're doing, we see it as we understand it will be the overarching plan that will then help inform some of your other college-wide plans, including your educational master plan, facilities master plan, your student equity, distance ed, all of those plans that will continue to happen, but they will be linked and connected to the strategic plan. And then ultimately those plans will then inform your resource allocations. So that's the integrated approach. Now a little bit about how we plan to engage with all of you.
So one of the things that'll be really important for us is to actually physically be on campus, and we have plans to do that just as soon as we can. And so we will be doing meetings like this with the different constituent groups that are part of Santa Barbara City College, including the community, the Board of Trustees, and others that have an investment in this community. And we'll do that in a number of ways. We'll have surveys that we'll do, but also really intentional stakeholder engagement on campus. These pictures are actually from a plan that we did at Mesa called the Mesa 2030 plan, where we had large boards with sticky notes. And as people came through the institution, we asked them a series of questions about what their hopes and dreams were for the institution. And it was a wonderful way to inform the process. But we have a number of different modalities that we can do that in.
And I would mention that Pam and I just finished the Mesa 2030 plan, which is a really recent and current reference point. That was a little larger plan. That was a strategic plan integrated with an educational and facilities master plan. And so what we're doing right now really focused on is the strategic plan portion for City College.
So of course, we want to make sure that we're using the data that's important for this work. And so we're working with your institutional research office and looking at the various different ways that we as community colleges are already held accountable. We know that we need to report on things like student persistence, student retention, throughput, graduation rates, transfer rates. We need to disaggregate that data by race to see which students are having an equitable experience through your institution. So we'll be using all of your data to do that.
And then another type of data we'll use is data that we collect from you. It's more on the qualitative side. Some of you might be familiar with this, or maybe have saw an email yesterday that got released to the entire City College community of the release of an online survey. And it went to everyone, students, faculty, and staff. And it's following a survey that we developed through Gensler, through our research institute. So as part of Gensler, we fund our own research and we learn about things that are important to our clients. So we have some national benchmark data related to many of the questions on the survey, and then several of them are customized specifically for Santa Barbara. The survey, which we did last year, and we have over 3,000 respondents, asked all sorts of questions about experiences in the past year of learning in different ways that people never imagined they would be learning, and also in teaching. And so it's a tool to survey both students and educators. On the educator side, it'd be faculty, learn about experiences, but most importantly, learn about preferences for moving forward into the future. So a variation of that survey was released yesterday. It came from Z. I hope some of you have had a chance to do it. Has anybody? Like a raise of hands or?
Actually, yes, many of us have actually done it, and we have some feedback around that. Would you like that now or at the conclusion of your presentation?
I think at the conclusion, and I want to make sure we address it and then I address it properly with the right person responding. So. Okay. We'd like to keep going because there's other parts we want to make sure we get, and we know we're in a certain timeline, if that's okay. And I see someone has their hand raised. Is that in relation to the survey from Russell?
Well, I think you asked folks who did it, and I think Russell was saying that he did it.
Oh, thank you, Russell.
That is what I was saying.
Awesome. Okay.
There's a number of us on the call that have completed it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so it is open till Monday, the 25th. It'll close at midnight. So hoping to get a lot of information that we can then share back with you. And some of the types of questions, and I know some of you have seen this as well, but this is from a response to a question we asked in our national survey, asking about preferences for the future. This is specifically about hybrid learning. We asked questions about all in person or all remote or a combination of the two as a hybrid schedule, which means a lot of different things to different people. But you can see far and away at community colleges and across other higher education institutions, a preference for 2/3 up to 3/4 wanting some version of hybrid. Now, what does that mean for Santa Barbara City College, and what are we hearing from your campus community will be really interesting to compare against this as well. And then the other question is part of the survey as well, is asking about reasons to come to campus. And this is a summary of the findings. You can see it's been separated by different type of institutions that we surveyed. We have community college in addition to undergrad and graduate students. So we have this information, which will definitely inform the future of the planning, not only the physical planning, but also the strategic planning and the strategic directions. So for the process and timeline, what we've outlined and have begun is a 4-step planning process. For the last several weeks, we've been in the prepare stage, getting ready to move into the phase that we're in right now, which is the analyze phase, to collect as much information we can, again, on the qualitative and the quantitative, so that we can begin to create the framework for planning and draft some strategic directions, which will then evolve into the strategic plan and the final document that will be developed as a result of this process. And what's showing on this slide is the timeline. So there's a lot of things on this slide, just high level. We have those 4 steps extending. This is where we are here, the 2nd week of April. And the 4 steps extend, and the intent is to complete the strategic plan and have it be approved either in September or October. We're keeping that a little loose because we want to make sure that the right level and appropriate engagement takes place before it's approved. What we indicate down here is the engagement that's been discussed and scheduled as part of this effort. And so our primary working group that we'll be meeting with on a regular basis is CPC. And I know some of you are on that. We've had our first meeting last week, and we have our second meeting and our final meeting the spring semester on May 3rd, when we plan to present the findings from the campus survey. And then our team will do some work over the summer, and we have 2 more planned meetings with CPC at the beginning of the fall semester. We should indicate here when the campus survey was released yesterday through, this should say actually the 25th. Here we are today at the 13th meeting with you. We are confirming a meeting with CSEA next week. We will be having a meeting with the Professional Development Committee on the 28th. The purpose of that meeting is to talk about how to is to strategize on what we plan to do in late August as part of your in-service day. And we'll be bringing the findings, some draft strategies and ideas to a large group of people. So many of you are on campus, we want to leverage that time and conduct some workshops during that time period, which we will be coordinating. We do have an ALA managers meeting that is yet to be confirmed as well. So there's a lot of activity and engagement happening through the month of April into early May that I wanted to highlight here. We do plan to survey your community, the communities that you serve, multiple communities, and we plan to do that in the summer. I think that would be a good time to get a good response. And then the other engagement we're highlighting is with the Board of Trustees. We had an initial meeting with them last week to walk through the process and have some discussion about goals and ideas or just thoughts about the process. We plan to have a session sometime in June or July, and then either in September or October to bring back the strategic planning, the final plan for approval.
Deb, if I could interject for just a moment. Also, students are not missing from the process. We are trying to find the best way. We know that Associated Students is a particular group of students, but we are reaching out to folks on campus to figure out a way to get more direct input from particular student groups and just a broader student group than we can get from the survey.
Right, because the survey, we hope to get a lot, but we hope to follow up in focus groups and looking at the timing of that, and want to do it at a time where it can be meaningful and we can use the information for the process. So that is under discussion right now. So back to you, Pam.
So one of the things that's really critical, obviously, in the process is how we measure the success of the work that we'll do towards this plan, and how will Santa Barbara City College then use this plan going forward to try to figure out what it looks like to be successful as an institution. And so we know that you know, and you've measured those kinds of things in different plans over time. But we really want to hear from you what that looks like at this point in time.
And so and with the groups we've been meeting with so far, we've asked the question, what's most important to you? And we want to kind of walk you through what we've heard so far, and then hear from you all. In addition to, we have a slightly different question we'd like to ask you all.
So obviously we've heard, lots of things in terms of what has been important to have in this plan. And so I think we're starting to see themes in that. And we've had lots of feedback from lots of different groups. But as Deb said, we do have a slightly different question for you all. So Deb, I don't know if you want to go through all of these first, or
I'll just kind of click through them. There's
Great.
a lot, and we don't intend to read them, but we
will not read them to you. We will not be bad PowerPoint reader teachers. So what we want to do is give you an idea of what we've heard so far. And obviously it's all about inclusion, making sure that we are inclusive, reaching out to all the different folks that are there. Lots of feedback we're getting around what the future looks like in terms of how the institution arrays itself, whether that's different modalities of teaching, different modalities of services. What does campus look like now? What does future of campus look like? Lots of things around how we attract and recruit and retrain excellent faculty and staff. What does service look like in terms of high touch, high tech? That the document itself should be something that's helpful to the institution and not just sit on a shelf. And flexibility and agility, I think, are some high level things that we've heard. Obviously, the bread and butter of most of our campuses, how we do enrollment management, how we make sure students have access to courses so that they have throughput to completion, are all part of this plan. But if you just want to give a read to what's there, we'll give you a minute to do that. So we're, of course, hopeful that as you see the things that we've heard so far, some of these things resonate with you. And now what we'd like to do is ask you a bit of a different question along the same lines. So as you think ahead to 2025, and you're more than welcome to go beyond that, because it seems like the years come at us quickly. What will Santa Barbara College be like? What will Santa Barbara City College be? What will it look like? What would you want for the college to have, to be doing? And if you'd like to answer that question, you're more than welcome to reflect on it. It would be great. We're going to take notes on those things that you're telling us.
Maybe as sitting Senate president, I should get us started off. What will SBCC be like? Well, I can only offer you what I hope it's like, which is by 2025, and hopefully a lot sooner for the sake of so many on campus, that we are finally the college that we say we are. And that we stop yeah, I'll stop myself there. That we're finally the college that we say we are through things like our mission statements, our student equity plan, gratuitous emails, espousing the work we do and things like that. That we actually live up to many of the things that we say that we're doing.
Excellent. So what I hear from that is really important to have North Star paddling in the same direction, accountability measures so that you know that there are ways for you to say that, to see that you're doing that. Is that
Well, I think
accurate,
there's
Rand?
already, not necessarily. I mean, I think that there's ways that we already know that we're not doing it. So, so you mentioned accountability measures, maybe actually doing those.
Okay, and having ways so that you know that you're doing it. Versus just saying you're doing it. I get it. Gotcha.
Is that okay what I wrote? We have accountability measures and we use them?
Yeah.
It's funny. I was going to
Thank
say
you.
something similar, but not as good as what she said, because the only thing I can think of immediately, that's why I didn't say anything, was don't talk about it, be about it. And that's all I got. But it's pretty much what Ray said.
Like walk the talk? Or
Yeah, just let's
I get
just stop talking about it and do it.
Ellen.
Yeah, I was just said it better than I was going to, but just that we actually that it's not performative, that when we say something, it's actually, there's actually action behind it.
So Jess, Ellen, and Ray, do you mind if I ask more questions about that? Can I interrogate
Yeah,
that a
sure.
little bit? So as a faculty member, as a Senate leader, in whatever role you play, and not just play, but right, the work that you do, what does it look like for you as an individual then in that space? How will you know you're being about it?
Well, I can only speak to like, I'm not very good at waxing on theoretical, but I'm very good at giving you a for instance. So I can only give you a for instance. So if you don't mind to indulge me in a for instance, that you'll then have to extrapolate more to a theoretical piece.
I'm all about the tangible, Rand. I'm good with it.
So right now there is, I would say, a major exodus in faculty leadership. Many of the people on the call, many of which are women of color, part-time faculty, faculty from, non-instructional divisions. The list goes on, and many of us are walking away from leadership because we are having a really hard time with the trajectory that the school has been on. We've been engaged in this work for quite some time, and we are systematically and overtly have been hostile to in meetings, while things like inclusion and diversity are being espoused. And so I would say, like, what is the measure? What does it look like? Like, how will I know that like we're there and can feel it and be in that space when a woman of color disrupts or says something that that challenges the status quo, or not even is as subtle as meaningful feedback of a way to actually serve our students or actually create space for a marginalized identity. Either they're speaking for themselves, or they're speaking for a student, or they're speaking for a colleague, that then is not, then that interaction is taken as an opportunity for the college to do better and actually do it, and not then have it be an example of how that person needs to be silenced, needs to be pushed aside, needs to be marginalized, needs to be
Calls for civility.
yeah, calls for civility and things like that. That when a disruption comes up, that there's a reflection on, okay, we're going to take this and do better, rather than pushing people aside and alienating them while also saying that we're going to be inclusive. Like I said, I don't know if that
That
makes
was
sense.
very helpful. No,
Yeah,
that was
well,
extremely helpful.
okay,
No,
So that's it for me.
Ellen and then Anna.
Yeah, I think what I was going to say was very much what Ray just described, but I think we have a long-standing, I've been here 11 years, and I've been in leadership in one form or another, or, you know, trying to care about things and work on things beyond the scope of my job for at least 5 or 6 years now. And I have seen again and again various administrations, sort of the persona of the college being, we care about DEI, we care about anti-racism, we care about all of these things. And then when people who are doing the work and have done the work and actually point to specific things that need to change, they are scapegoated and gaslit, and you know, it becomes a really toxic environment. So I think, you know, I don't think we're going to get there in 3 years, but my hope for the future of this college is that we will be able to create a culture where those kinds of challenges that we do better and be better are welcomed as information and not slammed as you're the problem, you know, as not scapegoated.
Thank you. Anna.
I have a couple of suggestions. Sorry, my voice kind of goes in and out, so I'll chat it after if needed. We are piloting a equity-minded hiring process this year. We have a lot of hiring that will happen before 2025. So my hope is that our outcomes reflect the intentions of the pilot, and that the pilot becomes the standard, that we pay competitive wages that will entice candidates that fit our needs, and that also respect their value. That we will, our leadership at the top will reflect our community, because I think that that is currently not the case. And I also hope that our college as a whole will become more intentional about participating in our community outside of the college, to really understand what our students are living through, what our colleagues are living through, particularly those that are most vulnerable and marginalized. Santa Barbara is a hard place to live, and a lot of people who are making decisions don't have the same experience as those who they are making decisions for.
Thank you very much. Robbie.
A lot of the things that people have said so far have a part of the reason for these things is this culture on our campus that we are different or special. And that just encourages us to rest on our laurels and not take advice for ways that we can change, or not honor best practices at other campuses across the campus, or not, as has been said earlier, to honor voices of dissent on campus, but rather to treat them as part of the problem because we're special and we're different. And I really think that we're special and we're different culture has got to go, or else we will never change.
Thank you for that. Anna, did you put your hand back up?
I did.
Okay, I was not trying to say at all that you can't have your hand back up. I just want to make sure you wanted to speak.
It was new hand, not old hand.
No problem.
I also forgot to mention that I hope we get to a place where people can separate themselves from their work or their titles, because I think that people take things very personally, which is also a huge impediment to progress. Us naming an issue that is institutional does not mean that you as an individual are the problem in and of itself. So I hope that people can find ways to heal themselves and to find collective healing for our community, because I do not think we will be able to move forward if folks don't take responsibility for healing, individual and collective.
Thank you.
If I have misinterpreted any of these notes that you're watching me take and you want me to correct any of them, please let me know. I'm doing my best to capture the essence of the comments we're hearing, but please advise.
Yeah, I think my comment is not reflected there, that there's this culture on our campus that we are special and that it is hindering progress. And we need to disabuse ourselves of this idea that we are somehow different or special or better than other community colleges in the state.
Okay, so turning that into in 2025, what will SBCC be like? Not considered special? I don't know how to turn that around.
I think we need to no longer consider ourselves, we need to see ourselves. How can you turn that into a goal?
So
We need to stop doing everything I said.
Robbie, could I try?
Yes.
What, to me, it lends itself to open hearts and open minds, right? I mean, you have to come to the work if you think you know it all. And I'm not saying you do, but I'm just saying if you come to it from an attitude of we know what's best, then we don't ever look for what might be better than best or more effective for our students or for one another. So I'm wondering if it's coming to the work with open hearts and open minds and being open to other forms of practices, whatever that might be.
But everybody you approach on campus, if you say, do you feel that way? They would say, oh yes, I totally do.
Okay, fair.
So it's that maybe being open to the idea, here we go, how about this? Maybe being open to the idea that our campus has something to learn from college best practices, from dissenting voices on campus, and that the status quo is not our goal.
Okay.
I'm not sure that's the greatest, but
Well,
I'm sure
but I
it's
think
not
we
the
know what's
greatest.
meant. I think we know what's meant by that. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I also really quickly wanted to clarify my comment about the college being more engaged with the community. I think it's really important to name what I said about most people not having the experience of most of our students. And so what I was kind of getting at is that we're not making decisions for people, but we're making decisions with people.
Okay, so maybe not engaged, but you're more in tune and you're making decisions with people. Would that?
I think alongside versus on behalf of.
Correct, in solidarity with
Right.
Okay.
what their needs are and not us deciding for them or looking at data and forgetting that these are human beings who exist in our community.
Okay. Pam, how did you say that? That you are alongside as opposed to?
So yeah, we're working in connection with our students and not just on behalf of the students and the community. The community college system in general has been very parental in its work. I think all of us have found ourselves there where we look at data and we're like, hey, let's make this assumption about there and in our case, 20,000 students on my campus. Heaven forbid we would have asked one of them. So I think there's ways to do that, but I think many of us have done it, but it's a point well taken. I see Joy and then Ruth.
Hi, I have a little bit of a different emphasis here. Since I've been here, with the exception of probably 1 or 2 years, we've always been trying to get the college on a good financial footing. It seems like we're always in, financial dire straits. And then there's all this talk about right sizing our campus. And we have lots of pressure to embrace and experiment with good pedagogy, to be innovative and inclusive. And then at the same time, our class sizes are going up. And sometimes with no reason given, a class size of 50 will be increased to 60. And so I would hope that in a number of years, we could find that right size, but also live up to and support our faculty in good teaching practices. Because if we are trying to make constant changes to our course curriculum to be more inclusive and to meet students' needs, that gets harder when our class sizes keep getting bigger. It just feels like they're trying to wring out the instructors for more, butts in seats. And so I want to do a good job teaching. And I feel like I spent all my time teaching, and I still feel like I could do a ton more. And I don't even really feel like I have a lot of time to participate in shared governance, because the teaching load is great. And I feel the responsibility. And I just, I'm starting to really resent this increasing class size for lecture classes. So thanks.
Thank you.
Joy,
That's
I
very
wrote-
helpful.
I wrote to find the right balance to support good teaching practices and institutional stability, or was it specifically to financial stability?
I think it's both. I mean, that's the line I always get. It's like we keep hiring more and more administrators, but we're in financial dire straits. And one of the reasons to help us out of that is to increase class sizes, which seems to me goes in the wrong direction of, then students start repeating classes because they don't get the, help from the instructor, not all these other support services, but sometimes it's the instructor that needs to just jump in and say, come to my office, let's outline that essay together, kind of thing.
Thank you for that. Ray, I want to make sure that we're using your time well for your meeting today. And I know you had some feedback on the EEI. So we'll go ahead and go to Ruth and Jenny. And then do a wrap? Does that seem reasonable? Great. Okay. Ruth and then Jenny.
Okay, I have more like a 4-part comment, but I'll be brief here. The first one is related to some extent to what Joy said. I really think, and everyone knows that I feel this way, that it's really time for this college to face the music when it comes to right sizing the college, that it's time to make difficult decisions in terms of determining the size and the programmatic offerings, and then being these decisions being based on student need and it being intentional and strategic, as opposed to simply right sizing like by attrition, which is what we've been doing. So that's 1. 2, we need to improve our morale, right? Everyone, let's be honest, folks, it's in the gutter, right? So we really need to work on that. And it's not just faculty, right? We need visionary leadership. It needs to be holistic. And part of that is, not having as much turnover at the administrative level. So it's this big old beast that's ahead of us. What I'm seeing is a lot of people, a lot of faculty in particular, especially after COVID, are just retreating to their classrooms because that's our safe space, right? And we're just focusing on students. And of course we absolutely should, but we also need participation in shared governance. 3, continued progress towards transparency and decision-making so that it becomes a cultural norm. I think under Ray's presidency, we certainly have moved in that direction. And I hope that continues. 4, greater involvement of new and diverse voices, both faculty and staff, in shared governance.
Thank you very much. Jenny.
Make sure I get the last one. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would like to hope for greater investment in services that will improve student retention at the college, so that when students are struggling, they're able to get help immediately. So that includes increased staffing in health and wellness, so students can get mental health counseling, maybe even more of it than what they can currently get. That includes being able to see a counselor more readily, rather than having to wait for an appointment or till they're in major crisis. And that's not the counselor's fault. That's just their high ratio load that they have. And so they're really overburdened, I know. But having more counseling available readily for students is important. Overhauling our tutoring centers so that it is robust and integrated. It's really taken a hit during COVID, and it's pretty confusing right now where students can get help and how academically. And thinking more also about mentorship on campus.
And you're talking about like peer mentoring for students?
Right.
Yeah, got it.
Programmatically, whatever.
Yep,
and
gotcha.
so it's really like wraparound services that will help the students stay at the college and help them before it's too late and they make the decision to drop out.
Thank you. Ellen, did you have something quick you wanted to add? Because I know we're short on time.
Yeah, I actually wanted to address something about this survey, but
Oh, okay.
I
I
can
think
wait
that's where
until
we're
the
headed.
end.
Yeah, I think that's where we're headed next. We'll finish out here just with our slides. And what I would say is this does not have to end here. If you continue to have thoughts around what's important to you and what should SBCC look like in 2025, we are happy to continue to gather that input. If you want to send it through your Senate leadership, we're more than happy to get it that way. We will consider any and all input as we go along. This is your plan, not ours. We're here as the coaches and shepherds, if you will. And so we want to make sure that it's inclusive as it can be. We want to Jess's term, we want to be about it. So we want to make sure that we do a good job for City College.
Yeah, so Ellen, yeah, I was gonna mention there's been a little bit of feedback about the survey. So before Ellen shares, I'll get to that. The other thing I wanted to share with you is you mentioned in your presentation that that we'll be meeting at in-service in the fall as kind of like an all hands meeting and how are we gonna do this and have breakout rooms and things like that. You know, once again, shared governance processes, you know, communication, all of those things. Actually, one of our Senate agenda items is that we wanted to overhaul in service and not have day-long events, and that's been going through our professional development committee, and it was at our committee for faculty resources, and we actually have that agenda item for Senate to consider today. So it's a little unfortunate that no one has shared that possible changeover. And there are ways.
We haven't planned anything yet.
Okay,
so
perfect.
just
No,
so
it's
you
good
know,
timing.
No, it's great
Good, good,
timing.
good. So
We're just trying to take advantage of whatever time you all have to continue to inform the plan.
yeah, so
Yeah.
historically we have had that, and we're actually trying to move away from that model to a more, I don't know, well, whatever. And we're not there yet, but we're in those planning stages, and it might happen. So one piece of feedback I want to give you is maybe we need to think about how and when that all hands meeting can happen, if not in service. Maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse, and in service will go as, you know, as historically gone previously, but it might not. So just keep that in mind in your own planning. And the other thing, and Ellen will speak to this, especially from her division's point of view. I actually, as sitting Senate president, received some feedback, and there was a public comment at the beginning of the meeting Some folks felt as though that survey did not capture enough of teaching modalities or reasons why teaching decisions were made. So one, for instance, I heard was like, you know, if you're part-time faculty and the survey was asking you about the choice of how or why you teach, that's actually like a lot of part-time faculty don't have a choice and they're just given what they're given and they're told too bad, so sad. So for those questions to be asked for them and not have an opportunity to then give that feedback of like, well, actually, I don't have a say in where or how, meaning modality, I teach. Others felt that perhaps there was some pedagogical questions that could have been explored a little bit more about decisions of like where faculty are working. And then the other feedback I received, which Ellen can speak to briefly for you all, is that our non-instructional faculty, our educational support division faculty, student support, academic support faculty felt as though the questions that were posed to them were as if they're instructional faculty, they were classroom questions. And it just felt a little bit like they did not have anywhere to engage in the survey in a meaningful way. So Ellen can speak to that so that you're as well.
And I'll try to be as brief as possible, but I do think it's very important. Frankly, I think that the survey went out too soon and with not enough participation in the content of it. It quite literally does not apply to educational support division faculty. So, and the way that reads to us, many of the faculty in our division are frankly are really offended by it. Because it seems so out of touch with how we do our work and the important work we do supporting students. Ray has heard me say this before, so I'm even though we are designated as non-instructional faculty, and I'm talking about academic counselors, librarians, a faculty member in the tutoring center, personal counselors, faculty in disability services, the Career Center, Transfer Center, EOPS, like, and I know I'm leaving out some of our departments. We are designated as faculty, which I understand is not the case at all community colleges across the country, but it is in California. And many of us, including myself, consider our roles to be instructional. When I am helping a student at the reference desk or in a research workshop, I am engaging in instruction, but it is not the same as a class I am teaching, which, by the way, I also do. So there was no way for me to delineate, which of those roles am I answering about in this survey? And in terms of my work in the library, I know for academic counselors in terms of their roles, it just did not apply. It was all, if you choose faculty as your role, it's all about your work in the classroom. And so I have several concerns about that, including that many faculty in our division started the survey and then did not complete it because it didn't apply. So all of the other, and I went through the whole thing actually as if I were in all three of the roles. So you have 3 surveys that are just me doing that, that are not real answers. And other people may have done that too. That when we drop out of completing the survey because it doesn't apply, we are also then not able to participate in the more personal questions about our personal feelings and needs around face-to-face versus remote work. So that's a big concern for us. And I'm also really concerned, last thing I promise, that the questions about instruction, both the faculty facing questions about instruction and the student facing questions about instruction, were far more nuanced in terms of the types of activities within a class that might lend themselves to face-to-face versus online. And the questions that related to student services and student academic support were not only far fewer, but also way less nuanced. Like Likert scale, how do you rate the library? Do you want your library services face-to-face or online or remote? we provide a lot of different types of services and supports, and it may be that one of them really needs to be face-to-face and another one should be remote. And so we would have liked to have seen more of that delineation between different types of support we offer, more parallel to the way that is delineated for instructional faculty.
Thank you for that feedback. We actually did get some of that just briefly from Z as we launched, because I know people did provide that feedback. So we are re-engaging in the process. And so I don't know exactly what it will look like, but we in no way, as someone who started my career as a DSPS coordinator, was always in the other category, would never want to otherize any faculty member on campus. And so I appreciate so much the feedback, and we will regroup and make sure that we get something out so that everyone can complete it in a way that captures the nature of the work that you do and the importance of it going forward.
Thank you. I mean, we literally were otherized in that we had to choose the category for other.
I hear that, and I apologize for it ahead of time, and we will regroup and make it a more inclusive experience.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So Robin, and then we have so much we have to do in this meeting, everyone. So like we have to move on after this. Robin?
Yeah, again, I'll try to be as brief as possible. So I'll just like address one point and say in advance that I really agree with all of the points that have been made so far. But I really wanted to just say that there were a lot of questions that I looked at and I thought the answer to this question is not here for me. It's just not available. But the one that I actually put in the notes, this question offends me a little bit, was the one about what I like most about teaching remotely. And it was things like, I don't have to get dressed up for work and I can spend time with my pet. But nowhere in that list was, I like that I am able to serve students who would not otherwise have access to instruction. I like that this allowed me to serve a very disproportionately impacted population. I teach ESL during a pandemic that also affected them disproportionately in great numbers. So we don't make scheduling decisions in our department based on personal instructor preference at all. We absolutely schedule for what our students are able to do and what we perceive will meet their needs, including almost 100% of our full-time faculty are now almost exclusively night instructors to 10 p.m. because that's when our students can do it. So I worked really hard not to feel offended by that because I know that wasn't the intent, and I know that surveys are very hard to construct, but I would reiterate that pedagogy and serving students are primary in many departments. I hope most or all departments on campus. And so questions like, are you choosing your schedule because you won't have to dress up for campus? Just kind of frustrating. And I love my dog, but asking me if I choose my schedule so I can spend time with my dog is also just, anyway, I've said enough, but.
Thank you for that, Robin. Thank you. Ray, back to you.
Yeah, Pam and Deborah, thank you for coming here. We look forward to working with you throughout this process. I am stepping out as Senate President at the end of the semester, so it won't be me, but I think that you've heard from this Senate body, and then as others step into leadership, you can engage with them. And yeah, thank you so much for doing this and helping our college be who we want to be, and hopefully we'll get there by 2025 for sure.
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts and ideas, and we'll continue to engage with you all. And as Pam mentioned, if more ideas, more thoughts, please feed them to us. We're in a listening mode now. So the more we can learn about all of you and what you'd like to see, the better this plan will be.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay. To the academic senators, we absolutely positively must get through items 8.3 tonight. So I just want to let everyone know, and we might have to extend the meeting, which I absolutely hate doing, and Franny is going to miss T-ball. And that really bugs me. And I very much look forward to stepping out of this role so that Franny doesn't have to miss T-ball, but I think that we absolutely have to get through item 8.3 tonight. So let's make that happen. So without further ado, item 7.1, Ruth is going to give us a briefing about nominations for Academic Senate Division Senators. Ruth?
Hi, yes. So current senators, out of our current senators, no one whose seat isn't up, no one informed me that they wouldn't be completing a term. So we only have regular elections to run, and those are across our 6 divisions, which I have listed here, and I'll briefly mention them. They are English Division, Educational Support, Health and Human Services, School of Modern Languages, ESL, Sciences, and the Technologies Division. Call for nominations are going to go out tomorrow morning, and they will close on Wednesday at noon. And then the day after Thursday, voting begins, and it will close on Tuesday. And that'll be in time for our Tuesday, the 26th, April 26th. That'll be in time for our last meeting of the Senate body where we can announce it, but I'll probably send out an email before that. I will send out an email before then. And then just a reminder that at that last meeting, we have to elect the new VP for the Academic Senate for the coming year. That's it.
So Ruth, 2 questions. 2 of the divisions you mentioned have 2 senators. So
that's right.
One of them is Counselor Jen. So Counselor Jen in ESD will be exiting, and Robbie from the Sciences will be exiting. Do you know off the top of your head if they are the first senators or the second senators for their divisions?
They are second. So these will be by plurality.
Okay. Cool.
So which means that it's the departments that vote, and the department chair will figure out how the vote will be. They're supposed to consult with each of their full-time faculty members, get their vote, decide on it, and then inform me. And so we'll convey that.
Wait. By plurality.
Sorry, that's the first one. That's right. That's the first one.
Okay. I was like, wait, what?
Sorry,
Yeah.
plurality. Sorry, that's the first position. So that's the other 4. Plurality is all full-time faculty members within that division. And if someone has a split assignment, they're only to vote where they have the greatest assignment. They can only vote in one of them.
Perfect. Thanks, Ruth. Appreciate it. Looks like Russell has a question or follow-up comment.
Yeah, I have a question, Ruth. My term is up as the Technologies Division rep, as it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and nobody stepped up. We're literally going to be without representation. So I jumped back in. What happens if there are no nominees or people asking to be, right, senator?
So,
understand.
Okay, sorry, go ahead, Ruth.
From my understanding, there isn't a formal process. So I don't know what you're going to say, right?
Well, there's not a formal process, and Russell, I do think that this is a reckoning that as a faculty body we need to come to, right? Like you have been at the table for a number of years, and your service is amazing, and we appreciate it. But I do know that you and Brittany do a heavy lift, at least in your division, and there are many divisions that struggle with whether it's people are disengaged or uninterested, or I know with your division is so small that there's only so many people that can be so many places at any given time. So this is part of what I wanted to fix as Senate President. I really want us to look at our subcommittees. We have a number of redundancies across our subcommittees, whether it's Senate subcommittees or operational subcommittees. And we really need to think about this, but I think as a faculty body, we need to have these conversations. Why aren't people stepping up for Senate or another body? And what are we doing with our non-instructional professional time, right? Like I think that I think this conversation, Russell, is much bigger than what do we do when nobody steps up? Like there is a procedural answer to what do we do when nobody steps up, but then there's also this like bigger conversation of like, what are we doing as a faculty body when nobody is stepping up?
Yeah, I'm not calling anybody out in my division. Everybody wears multiple hats, you know, so I'm chair and senator, Brittany's on 2 committees, and we're the norm. We're not outliers. So it isn't that, you know, people are shirking their duty. We've been decimated with back-to-back SERPs and hiring freezes, right? Or, you know, because we are who we are. You know, we're not cost efficient, let's just say. So with that said, because I don't want us to go without representation, I'm just asking, what do I need to do? I don't want to put my name in the hat. I would like somebody else to step up. I'd like Academic Senate to be able to hear from somebody other than, you know, the same person for 5 years. That said, if nobody does, it's better to hear my voice than nobody's voice, right? So what is the process? That's all I'm asking.
There isn't one. And I think you're right. I think that you're not the only division that has been decimated by our SERPs, which is also why our committee structure needs to be overhauled. We are working with a committee structure that's more than 15 years old. We are not the same college we were 15 years ago. And so like, how are we doing things, right? So I think that this is an important question, but I don't think that we'll get an answer for you in the time that it might matter. I would just say, do what you can to encourage your fellow faculty to step up, to be a senator, and then take it from there. I don't know. Robin, do you have insight? You have feedback?
No, I have no insight. I just have a question.
Okay.
We're decimated by SERP over here too. I just had a question about process for the election, because we've had a couple of different processes for running the elections, and the last one that I remember, the Senate member in charge of the elections took both the nominations and the votes from division members and tabulated them. In the past, sometimes they've been run by the senators in the divisions. Which one are we doing this time so I can let my division know?
So it's my understanding that in previous elections, we have deviated from Senate bylaws when we let, quote, the division run their own election. In Senate bylaw and Constitution, it specifically says that we own the election, meaning the Senate, and so that the Senate election coordinator, which is typically our past president or our incoming president, runs it. And so that person in the position right now is Ruth, which is why it's been delegated to her, runs these.
Awesome. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. I personally do not want to do that job.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you, Ruth. We love you, Ruth. Okay, cool. All right, more to discuss on that election, especially, you know, what do we do when a division doesn't have a senator, but let's cross that bridge when and if we get there. Okay, going back to our agenda, I'm going to scream through these information items, and that is not to say that they're not important, but we do need to get to our action discussion items. Okay, 7.2, this is not a typo. Our 2020 faculty lecture will finally take place this fall. Ignacio Ponce is the honoree, of course, and it's the 2020 faculty lecture. I think this doesn't even need to be mentioned because COVID disrupted so much about our professional lives, and Ignacio's presentation really does need to, he wants it to be in person. I can't disagree with that desire, and so it will be in the fall. And more to come about the nomination period for the 2023 faculty lecture. You can honor an instructor, librarian, or counselor. The information is here online, or there's also paper forms around the campus. Okay, We are not necessarily going out for this grant, but as you know, the new grant process got created through work of Z's office and faculty, myself, Pam Gunther, Bronwyn Moore, and others included, and then those in staff, Beth Taylor Schott and others. Part of that process was to always bring institutional grants to at least CPC and the Academic Senate. So as such, here's this information item. It's for a TRIO grant. There's different types of TRIO grants available. This one specifically is for Upward Bound in Math and Science. The one-page information sheet is given here. So when this sheet was created by Rachel Johnson in the foundation, at that time, the grant hadn't yet been like fleshed out with all the details. So you'll see a number of details that are to be determined or more information coming. I actually received that information today. And so those fleshed out details will be on an information item next week. But in preparation for that forthcoming information, you can review this. And if you're interested in perhaps throwing your hat in there of writing the grant or being a director and being part of it, you'll want to contact Rachel Johnson in the foundation. Also, Lori Vasquez sent out another email about this today. So it should be in everybody's inboxes already. It's also here as an information item. C, Student Equity and Achievement Committee, has an open call for funding programs right now. So if you have an idea that would serve underrepresented students or disproportionately impacted students, please consider submitting funding requests to C. Okay, the Sabbatical Leave and Recognition Committee is preparing for the next round of sabbatical leave applications. And so they have an information meeting. The chair of the committee, Darren Gerard, sent this out. There's more information here. So if you are thinking about sabbatical leave, or senators, if you could please put this in front of your faculty so that they know to make it to that information session, that would be really great. This has been on the agenda previously. I'm bringing it up again. I'll also, email the faculty body about it, but there is a Black Student Success Week coming up in about 2 weeks' time. There will be daily webinars, discussion groups, virtual advocacy measures, and lots of really exciting things. So all of that information is given here, just a way to celebrate our Black students, find out ways for advocacy, and also contribute to Black excellence in California community colleges, which I didn't know this, but if you read this quote from, where is it? Oh, is it not here? Oh, it was in my email. Apparently I need to look this up and I couldn't find it, but it said that 2/3 of Black undergraduates are enrolled at California community colleges. And the US Department of Ed is the one that supplied that. And I was really like, wait, what? So that's in my email and I'll share it next week, but I found that very surprising, and also all the more reason why we need to engage in this important work as, if it's correct, as a California community college. Okay, item 7.7, there is a Cal OER conference, Open Educational Resources. It's August 3rd through the 5th. You can either propose, a session for you to lead if you're highly engaged in OER material, or if you're interested in OERs, please consider participating. What I find especially interesting about this particular conference is that it's with the 3 major college university systems in California: California community colleges, us, UCs, and CSUs. So I find that really interesting, especially as somebody that's thinking about moving towards an OER in my own class. For my students that are transferring, what a great opportunity to hear what's happening at our universities. So anyways, it's virtually August 3rd through the 5th. So if you're interested, the flyer's there. Senators, please put that in front of your faculty. I mentioned the legislation that's coming through that you should all be aware about. And also I want to mention some stuff that's happening at the Board of Governors level. So some potential changes in our Title V. One of them is especially timely, of course, and I think that it's so frustrating that this needs to go through in terms of a Title V change, but here we are. There is a 45-day window, although we're in it, so it's not actually 45 days anymore, where the Board of Governors are considering including diversity, equity, and inclusion into evaluation, whether that be faculty, staff, or administration at the college level. Now, this is certainly something that I would be interested in working on at the Santa Barbara City College level, especially the Senate level. However, our union has had the faculty evaluation under their purview since fall of 2019. And I know that they have come about once every semester and given us an update on where that work is, but supposedly it's still under negotiation with the district. And so we can't engage in any changes because of that, because it's law that we can't. So I don't know how that fleshes out in terms of this Title V change and us not having a say in the evaluation changes at this time, but there it is. Also, there is some Title V changes being discussed at the Board of Governors level around information and data requests. So if you look at the background of this, the Chancellor's office often comes to local districts and says, we need X information from you, and it's the responsibility of the district to send that back to the Chancellor's office. It's my understanding what happens a lot of places. I don't know of this happening at Santa Barbara City College, so I'm not saying that we are guilty of this. In fact, I have no idea whether we're doing a good job of this or not, but it's my understanding that a lot of California community colleges are not doing a good job at this. And so there's Title V changes that are happening or that are being discussed, where essentially when the Chancellor's office asks for data from a California community college, that we will have to respond to that within 10 days. Very similar and in parallel to the California Public Records Act requests that any public member can make of the district. So that's at the state level. The language is there, the information is there. So should you want to review that, please do so. If you have opinions on it or want to make comment at the Board of Governors level, the information is there to do so. Lastly, budget, constantly on fire, constantly needs to be discussed, even in times when the going's good. I do hope that folks are paying attention to the 2022-23 state budget that gives funding to all California community colleges. Right now, there is some feedback from California Community College Coalition partners, as well as the CEOs and CIOs, as I understand it, trying to get the state legislators to think about the priority in the funding and what's coming towards us. So should you want to read that letter, or should you want to know more about that budget, it's there. If you don't know anything about next year's budget, you should definitely catch up really quickly. Yeah, times are tough. Okay, so that concludes the information items. Unless anybody has questions, comments, or concerns, we can now move on to item 8.1. Sound good? So now that we are in action items, I will call for public comment. Would anybody like to provide public comment before we discuss item 8.1? Raise your virtual hand if so. Okay, right on. I'm seeing none. All right, so item 8.1, please let me explain why this is in front of us, although I suspect that it's of no surprise to those of you that have been paying attention. So our associate's degree nursing program has come to the Senate repeatedly for the last few years, and each time they have come, they have asked for, I believe, literally 3 positions each and every time, and if not 3, then definitely 2. There is a high turnover in our nursing faculty for a variety of reasons. And currently, like literally like this week, this month, right now, our ADN program is in a very precarious state because of the unfortunate passing of our colleague, but not just that. We also had a resignation in the fall. Sarah Orr is leaving us for a position at Westmont, and her leaving is going to be a significant loss to our program. So in the fall, we approved 2 positions for ADN. They are currently recruiting, hiring, selecting positions for them. But Executive Vice President Kathy Scott came to me and is requesting the Senate consider a 3rd position for the ADN program at this time, so that a 3rd solicitation goes out at this time. So the headcount report that is on the CPC agenda once a month is here. Should you have questions about, I'm sorry, this is sideways, but if you should have questions about, different fiscal years, the number of employees in each different group. The other thing that is attached to our Senate agenda, of course, is the ADN proposal from the fall. Should you want to review the presentation that they gave us in the fall, that Sarah provided for us in the fall, of course, all of our Senate meetings are recorded and uploaded to YouTube, so you could do that very easily. Please remember that the majority of our ADN positions are funded actually through Cottage and not through our own general fund. So it is my recommendation to the Senate that we entertain a motion to approve this 3rd faculty position and have it go out. I also want to share with you that when Kathy Scott emailed me about this, I did email her back and say, yes, this is a no-brainer to me, but clearly we need to discuss this at the Senate level. And we also need to have a conversation as a college of what else can we do to maintain this program, because year after year after year, our nursing faculty coming in and requesting these programs for faculty coming in and going out is not only a burden on nursing faculty, but also like clearly something needs to be addressed here. I'm thinking either compensation or something, right? The nursing program at many different levels are supposed to have separate director positions. We've heard about this in the presentations. They don't have that. So the faculty is not only, being a nursing instructor, but also doing the administrative work for the nursing program. And that's not department chairing work. That's like outside accreditation and outside nursing things, interfacing with Cottage, interfacing with a lot of different things. So I think that we, as a college, we need to have a larger conversation of, if we are going to have a nursing program, how are we going to support them? Because this is just very blazingly apparent to me that support in many different ways at many different levels isn't happening. So I don't know that that necessarily needs to be part of the conversation today, and it probably shouldn't in the interest of time. However, when is this conversation going to happen and who's going to lead it? And I would love to see the ADN faculty lead it, because clearly like it's their business and their self-interest. However, they're also so freaking booked that they can't, right? So like, I think as an academic senate and a faculty body, we need to have these conversations. And by the way, this isn't to say that ADN is the only one going through this, right? I'm just saying that right now at this time, this one is the most obvious one. So Robbie and then Russell.
Couldn't agree more with everything you said. It's such an important program and is such an important contribution to our community. So I move to approve the position, and I hope that we address the larger issues of how to better support that department in the future. But for today, I move to approve the position.
Okay, thanks, Robbie.
I second.
Wait, who was that?
That was Robin. Sorry.
Okay, Robin. So Robbie has a motion on the table to approve this position. Robin seconds. Russell, were you going to second? You can just give me a thumbs up if that's what you were going to do, or create that motion. Or did you have
Yeah, create the motion, second it, support, everything. So
Cool, thank you. So is there other items we need to discuss about the motion or this position at this time, or can we move on to our roll call vote? Okay, I'm hearing and seeing none, so that indicates to me that we can move on to our roll call vote. So again, you can vote yes or yay if you would like to affirm, no or nay if you are in disagreement with supporting this, or you may abstain. Benjamin Reyes,
Yes.
Counselor Jen,
Yay.
Ellen Carey,
Yes.
Jenny Baxton,
Yes.
Joy Coons,
Yes.
Dee Dee,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Jess,
Yay.
Robbie,
Yay.
Ruth,
Yes.
Tara,
Yes.
Russell,
yes.
Trisha,
Yes.
and Anna.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everyone. I know that this was a vote for, a position, but I also feel as though it's a vote in confidence of supporting this really important program. So good. I will let Kathy Scott know that we should go out for 3 positions, and hopefully those are very, very, very successful hires. And yeah, so we'll know more later. Okay, item 8.2. So typically the approval of the academic calendar is kind of a, I would say rubber stamp process for us. Typically by the time the academic calendar gets to us, it has been vetted by a number of different groups, and a number of different eyes have been on it. And that is the case this time around, but there is a question that I want to run past you all and see what Senate supports around this. So it's the 2023-2024 academic calendar. We are not discussing the 2022-2023 calendar at this time. And as far as I know, people are aware that the spring breaks don't match up. So people are on that. Thank you, Paloma, for emphatically shaking your head and being on that. Everyone is so worried about spring break. I hope somebody's buying me a plane ticket because they're all eyes are on spring break 2023. So that's great. But here we're talking 2023, 2024. And as you all know, because we unanimously supported this, Juneteenth is now a district holiday in addition to being a national holiday, and it is celebrated on June 19th. Now, Black Faculty and Staff Association, BFSA, were consulted and asked, and their preference is to have the SBCC holiday take place on the Friday of the week. So in June 2024, that would be a Friday, June 21st. So as it stands, the calendar has the current holiday, meaning the day off of summer 1 instruction on that day, on the actual day. However, BFSA would prefer to have the holiday at SBCC be on the Friday. Other groups have weighed in and have supported the choice and the preference of BFSA. I would encourage the Senate to do the same, but we do need to provide feedback on this item so that the academic calendar can go through the process and reach and go all the way to the board for final board approval and adoption so that it can be published. Anna.
I would like to move that we accept the recommendation of observing Juneteenth on the date that you said, I can't remember what it was, and to correct the spelling of Juneteenth on the calendar because it was spelled wrong.
Okay. Juneteenth. Good catch, Anna. Yes, so noted. The motion is to support the holiday recognition on the Friday and to correct that spelling. Do I have a second on the motion on the table?
I second that motion, Trisha.
Thank you, Trisha. Any further discussion? Okay, and the motion is on this change, but also like with this motion, I'm going to give the feedback that the Academic Senate approves the whole calendar and just move it along, okay? So any discussion on the item, the calendar or the motion? I'm hearing and seeing none, so we shall do our roll call vote. So again, yay, yes, nay, no, or abstain. Benjamin Reyes,
Yes.
Counselor Jen,
Yay.
Ellen Carey,
Yes.
Jenny Baxton,
Yes.
Joy Coons,
Yes.
Dee Dee,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Jess,
Yay.
Robbie,
Yay.
Ruth,
Yes.
Tara,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Trisha,
Yes.
and Anna.
Yes.
Perfect. Motion carries, unanimous approval. I will let EVP Scott know that is the will of the Senate. All right, so our last item tonight, I will call for public comment at this time for item 8.3, Academic Senate President Election, Spring 22. This is just a discussion item. So at this time, is there anyone that would like to provide public comment on this item? Okay, I'm seeing none. So now I will set this item up. There have been a number of questions posed to Academic Senate Steering and directed specifically towards the election coordinator, Ruth Morales. Because these questions have been coming in, Senate Steering thought it was important to have this item be on our agenda so that we can address any comments, questions, or concerns that people have at this time, to allow for that, and so that we can all move on for our lives and that the item is settled. So that is what I hope to accomplish by having this discussion item. So specifically, the questions came in around the balloting. So one thing that is important to mention is that typically on our ballots, for the last few years at least, we have a nominee or nominees, although of late it's been a nominee. And then we also have an opportunity for a write-in. This election, as we all know, the write-in was the candidate with the most, a write-in, I should say, was the person with the most number of votes. And so, as we all know, as Ruth announced, the incoming Academic Senate President is Melanie Eckford Prosser. Questions came in about the ballots. Some people misunderstood and thought that they could perhaps change their vote. So a number of requests came into the Academic Senate to change their votes. Those requests were emphatically denied, and no one was allowed to change their vote. Early on in the voting, 2 of the ballots were spoiled. How could 2 ballots, how could a Google form be spoiled? They were submitted incorrectly without information in the write-in part. And so similar to a state or a national election, there was a process for dealing with the spoiled ballots, which was invalidating the previous ballot or submission of the Google form, deletion, and then allowing those two votes to be, allowing the form to be reused. So there was 2 spoiled ballots that were fixed, and no votes were changed, and the election happened the way it did. And so we have an incoming Senate President, Melanie Eckford Prosser. Any questions, comments, or concerns at this time around the Senate President election? And before anyone doesn't have questions or does, please just let me say emphatically, I know this college and I know this faculty body. This is your opportunity to say something and address the body that had purview over this process. If you don't have anything to say, do not leave this meeting and have a whole bunch to say afterwards. That is how morale gets degraded on this campus. That is damaging to the incoming leadership that we have. That is, I'll use the word cowardly, because I very much believe that. So if you have a question, comment, or concern about this election, now is your time. And you are very much welcome to do whatever you want in your personal life, but I hope that if your comments around how this election played out are anything but supportive of where the cards landed, my advice to you all rings in your ears. Now is your opportunity to say it in the meeting, and you didn't take that. And so you are taking the coward's way out of being a high schooler talking crap and further eroding the morale on campus. The election happened how it happened. We need to support the incoming academic senate president. I know better than anybody how freaking terrible this job is. Terrible, capital T. And so we need to put this at rest, which is why this item is here. So senators, anything you have to say? Awesome. So with that, I think that we'll say congratulations to Melanie Eckford Prosser, Godspeed. And we now have it settled that there were no questions, comments, or concerns coming forward from the Senate body. And we now have a very confirmed and overt way forward. Thank you very much to Dr. Art Olguin for putting his hat in the ring. I was very much looking forward to his leadership, and that's not how things happen, but thank you, Art, just the same for participating in this process. And thank you to everyone that voted. And I look forward to not having to miss T-ball practice anymore. So with that, I would like us to adjourn the meeting unless anybody is dying to move on to item 8.4 through 8.6. And if not, we will put those on next week's agenda. Sound good? Awesome, y'all. Have a great night. Bye.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.